Well, hello, hello, hello. It's Gary Lucas, your old friend, and it's Saturday, January 30th. How time does fly when you're having fun. I wouldn't say anybody is like having too much fun right now, but that might depend, of course, on your socioeconomic status and where you were sheltering in place. We've been pretty much hunkered down, as you know, if you've been following this in our apartment, with one brief interlude actually visiting our friend Jeff Roth over in the wilds of Long Island, not too far out. And then I had a 3-week hiatus in the Netherlands, which was wonderful, although sad to say, since I left around November 15th, 16th, I was there for 3 weeks. Levels are spiking, and they've been having, this is really horrible, actual riots in 12 cities. Basically, it seems to be fueled by hooligans and right-wingers who are, anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, anti. Anyway, I want to up the ante with pleasurable, entertaining music for you guys today. So even though this doesn't sound on the face of it as like a happy song, because it's in a minor key, I want to play this, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Here we go. Yes, that is Leos Janáček's On an Overgrown Path, number 15, the Allegro. And the reason I'm playing it, I tried to play a little bit a couple days ago, but I was underprepared. Sorry about that. But I think that was okay. And I played that before the General Assembly of the UN 3 years ago, on January 27th, this week. And if anybody asked me what was the highlight of my performing career in my entire life, I'd have to say that gig, even though it was that but one number. But it meant so much to be up there, on the dais. And anyway, there is a clip on YouTube and Vimeo of the actual performance there, and the audio from that clip is on my new 40-year retrospective album, The Essential Gary Lucas. Here we'll segue into commercial break, which has just come out yesterday, Friday, January 29th, and they're ringing the phones off the hook at the Knitting Factory. No, I'm kidding, but I think it's doing very well as far as the amount of pre-orders, because, I've been plugging it assiduously, as have they, and now it's available. You can stream it on Spotify, and you can download it, and you can purchase this hard goods CD, which I would recommend if you're interested as a collector of a fine objet d'art. It's a beautiful package by my old friend Steve Byram, who I cut many a caper with back in the CBS Records days, when I toiled in the vineyards at Black Rock as a copywriter for all sorts of stuff. Some of it really good, stuff like The Clash. I love The Clash. And some of it I didn't much care for, and some of it I never even listened to. But anyway, it was a gig, and the fact is, this album, it was tough to make a selection, because I put about 35 albums out to date. And I got about another 4 in the can and more on the way to be recorded. It was hard to pick what I thought was the best or the most representative. And after I made the selection, I was, second guessing myself, like, damn, I should have put that on there too. But hopefully it will act as a gateway, a portal for you to discover a rather sizable body of work, I would say, that I've generated since I really got busy full-time doing this in 1990, which is when I left my day job. So I'm out there 30 years at least now, full-time as a musician. And so I have it probably breaks down to about one album a year for every year I've been out there at least. And what else to say? It's getting excellent reviews so far, knock wood. That is wood. That was the first thing that went up in this apartment, were these wooden shelves for my vinyl record collection. There were no CDs in those days, just vinyl and cassette, and I had a lot of vinyl. As a mad collector in the first stages of moving to New York, I had to have them up in a place that they wouldn't even have direct sunlight hit them. I was very picky about the placement in this apartment, but I rarely take them down off the shelves, to tell you the truth now. But, I ain't selling them. Not yet. I hope never to have to, but, I've thought about it at various times. So, all that is to say, I think you should check this out. I think there's something for everybody on there. I might be the only person, actually, in the world who likes all of it, because it's so diverse, so you're probably going to get a diverse body of opinion. I really enjoyed and wanted to say thank you to, I think the guy's name is Lee Zimmerman, an American songwriter, because I actually think my songwriting is pretty okay, if I'm allowed to make a little bit of a boast or a boost on my songwriting catalog. The fact is, I'm much better known, most likely, for my guitar playing and my guitar skills, as it were. But really, I've tried to integrate them within a framework of songwriting that was not too, let us say, avant-garde, because I played with Captain Beefheart and I've done a lot of work in the improvisational free jazz field, not that much, but some stuff I'm really proud of. I get pegged as a weirdo guitar player. You know, they actually leveled that charge once in a magazine called 7 Days, which was a short-lived weekly here. When I first got going and playing at the Knitting Factory, they said, guitar weirdo Gary Lucas plays here. And I wouldn't really accept that. I think that, my music, while it's very, it stretches a lot of boundaries, and it's hard to pigeonhole genre-wise, because I think everything is fair game to go into the mix. I've always strived to be user-friendly, and that if people took the time to listen to what I laid down, they probably would like it, even very conservative music lovers, because I'm working out of a framework of it. You have to understand, I was a kid who at age 4 and 5 did nothing. Before I could write my own name, I would listen to Top 40 radio in the basement of my parents' house up in Syracuse, New York, and absorb it all and love it and sit there in a rocking chair and be fascinated by the voices and the instrumentals, particularly instrumentals. This is a genre that's nigh on disappeared off of any sort of chart you can think of. And I love a good instrumental, but anyway. Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's some treasures that were acquired today because of a kindly neighbor who left a collection of books that looked like they'd never been touched. At the when you come into our building, there's a wooden bench, and often before the pandemic, people would congregate there. A lot of chatty folks in the building, and now you're not really allowed to sit there. You'd be endangering the people in the hall. But this kind person left a whole bunch of books that look like, they've never been touched. So I just picked this up. Here's Patti Smith's Just Kids, which is a National Book Award winner. And she's a friend of mine, and I have played with her, but I never did read this book, so I'm looking forward to that. And then here is Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys, who has written all sorts of great modern fiction, a black author of note, and he wrote a book called The Underground Railroad, really good, which won a Pulitzer, I believe. And anyway, so I guess the person was, I don't know, she gets books by the carload, because why would you give up such books? But anyway, I'm proud to be the recipient as a scavenger type. Anyway, so I have a one Patti Smith story I can share with you. When right before I came to New York, I spent 2 years living in Taipei, Taiwan, ostensibly working for my dad. He had an import-export business in Asia of stuff like salad bowls made of teak and nothing very interesting to me. But I mean, I was starved for adventure, and it would seem like a good opportunity. It's a long story how I got over there, but I was there about 2 years. And I listened avidly while I was there to Armed Forces Radio Network, anyway, it's known as AFNT to anybody connected with the military who've spent any time or their families on army bases. They had an English language radio service, and they played all sorts of new records so I could keep up with what was going on in the States. And I remember in the summer of 1976, bicentennial summer, hearing Patti Smith's Land, I think it was. Or maybe it was Horses. Well, it was from the Horses album. Anyway, it was basically Land of 1,000. Yeah, I think it was Land. And it sounded really great. Plus, I used to get Rock Scene magazine in the PX, and that was a real treasure trove of information and photos about the nascent punk rock scene that was really starting to stir up in New York City and in London. And they had photos courtesy of my old friend Danny Fields and some articles of things like David Byrne in a supermarket goes shopping, and Talking Heads, early pictures of them, but a lot of pictures of the Ramones, and television, who sounded fascinating to me, and Patti Smith. So I remember finding, I think, a copy of Patti's album in Hong Kong at one of the great department stores there. And in those days, you could have the people there put them on cassettes for you, because I didn't have a normal phonograph record player in Taipei, and but I did have a cassette player, and so everything was done on cassettes. So I got that transferred to cassette, and I thought it was a great album. Still is, right up there, produced by John Cale, who was another old friend. And anyway, when I moved to New York, which was in very late December, I believe right after Christmas, and my girlfriend Ling at that time, who I later married about 6 months later, who was a girl from Singapore, and I were living on Lombard Street, San Francisco, in an old motel without any visible means of support. So she had a green card, and she couldn't technically work anyway until she acquired this. So we did get married, and then we had a whole incident where we were accused of doing a green card marriage, but eventually we got disentangled from this. And we moved to New York into the West Village in late May, early June of 1977. And as soon as I got there, I went to visit a very cool record store. I believe it's still functioning under this name. And that was Bleecker Bob's Records. In fact, there's a Jerry Seinfeld episode that just aired on Channel 11 here this week, in which Kramer and Jerry go try and sell a record collection belonging to an older gentleman who Elaine has been house sitting. He doesn't want him. They take the collection down to Bleecker Bob's. And a guy who doesn't look anything like Bob, who if you did ever go in there and meet him, you would remember. You wouldn't forget this guy. Anyway, he rejects him. And anyway. But it figures, and they have an establishing shot of the shop as it once was. I mean, it was in two locations. I used to go in there in the early 70s because he had amazing English exports. Right, the week they'd come out in the UK, he'd have a copy. And they were a bit pricey, but, this is how I first heard Roxy music. It was well before they came out. I think I bought it the day he acquired it. I went down there with my friend John Tiven, who ran a fanzine called the New Haven Rock Press. And now he's a songwriter and producer based in Nashville. Hi, John. I don't know if you ever tune in, but here you go. So, and I hauled back my treasures back to Yale, where I was a DJ on WYBC, and I had a show called The Sounds from England and Other Delicacies. The other delicacies that I would play that were not English on that show would be Captain Beefheart and some krautrock. I remember playing Can and Amon Düül. And that was about it. My own house rules were, it had to be English rock. And I had a very good collection of singles, too. I used to import singles. It was quite the Anglophile. But anyway, all I'm saying is I went down to Bleecker Bob's. Must be now, we're talking September 77. And I have to find this album by a group from Detroit called SRC, who I'd heard of, and I'd actually seen mime a song of theirs on a regional cable music show called Upbeat out of Philadelphia, which was quite good. I mean, the Yardbirds were on there, Eric Burden and the Animals and the New Animals. A lot of cool stuff. Some clips still survive. Also really great were his dance troupe, Jeff Kutash and the Upbeat Dancers. They were quite amusing and very athletic and energetic. And anyway, so Bleecker Bob had a whole bin that was labeled Detroit Rock. And so I could see it, and I was standing behind a figure in front of me waiting to thumb through it. And all of a sudden, that figure turned around, and it was Patti Smith, who I could recognize from, photos of her in that album, that Horses album with this iconic photo of her, black and white photo. And she gave me a very deep, piercing look. It was a real eyeball-to-eyeball moment. And, we clicked, but not a word was spoken, and I was a bit tongue-tied anyway to initiate conversation with her. So I think that that's cool in light of the fact that she later was to marry Fred Sonic Smith of the MC5. I think she had a Detroit rock fetish at that point. So I'm looking forward to reading this memoir of her. I know I picked up the last one she put out. I think it's called M Train, because she has a whole section about meeting Sandy Pearlman and Richard Meltzer, who were instrumental, really, in kickstarting her music career, along with Lenny Kaye, of course. But Sandy especially saw her as a possible lead singer for the Blue Oyster Cult. Go figure. And she wound up as a lyricist on some of their early albums, and they're very good songs. So I'm going to read this. One more thing to say about Patti is I know in reading her books that they're definitely pitched for a G-rated or maybe a little GP, basically a G-rated audience, if you bother to take the time, as I have done, you can dig up some of her early writing when she was just emerging as a rock critic and an essayist. And it's pretty heady stuff, I have to say. It's pretty outrageous. It definitely pushes the envelope in the erotic libidinal department. And, I don't think it's going to be collected anytime by any of her publishers there. And I don't know how she feels about it now. I'm sure she wouldn't out and out disown it. But it's some of it is very... very fine writing in a transgressive style. That's all I'm going to say. So check it out. You don't have to go to the dark web. I've never been there anyway. But it is available on some websites, and it makes really good reading material. I want to thank Jonathan Luftig and Mark Green, who were so generous in contributing to the virtual tip jar at PayPal, and I would encourage all of you to dig deep in your, I would give you a Reverend Ike type of a rack. You will be a lucky so-and-so if you do this, or you'll, it's part of it's your prerogative. So I'm going to keep doing this. I mean, maybe that it discourages people or disincentivizes them from contributing to the tip jar. But anything is cheerfully accepted. What was YMCA was supposedly your money is cheerfully accepted? Yes. No. Okay, well, I think that's it. I want to thank my tireless publicist, Jim Merlis of Big Hassle in the U.S., Ruben Miles Ty in the U.K. and in parts of Europe, Verdiana Garau in Italy. You've all done a fantastic job. Keep up the good work. And I'm on, if you're interested, I'll be interviewed live on Italian radio. It's Contro Radio out of Firenze, Florence, Italy, this Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. here in New York. Gee, I got to get up real early for that. Drink my coffee, so I'm loquacious on that thing. 4:30 p.m. Italian time. And you can get really good audio of this interview by getting their app, which is Contro Radio, one word, CONTROARDIO, Firenze, FIRENZE, Alarm. You can get it at any app store, I believe, and it's free. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be on Sirius XM radio on David Frick's show, The Writer's Block, which is on the Spectrum channel. I think it's channel 28. There are details on my website, but I'm going to post about it soon. I think that's the only way you can listen is to subscribe. And but I would urge you to do it. And David is an old friend, a great music writer. I'm telling you, he is a treasure, and I'm so glad he's got this program. Also, my old friend Kurt Loder. I hope he's still, had a channel on there, and he had me and Nona Hendryx on there a couple of years ago when The World of Captain Beefheart came out. Anyway, David will repeat it, I think, the following Saturday. So listen on Thursday night. You can listen if you have this app for Sirius XM. And then I think he's repeating it. Same time, it'll be repeated on the Saturday night, but I got to check that. But anyway, it's great that you would tune in. I love to play for you. I always reach for my guitar whenever, the spirit moves me, and it always does at 3 p.m. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So until Tuesday, please stay safe. I don't know about wearing multiple masks, but it might be a good idea. That's the latest from Dr. Fauci, and he probably knows better than anybody in this country. I would agree. And stay warm, too. It's really, really bitterly cold in New York right now. I stayed in all day yesterday. I think I'm going to retire for the late afternoon now. And, just keep your lamps trimmed and burning, as a blind Willie Johnson sang. And I'll see you on Tuesday, okay? Love you guys. Take care.